Hi, I'm Jason from MTX. We're here today to talk about the RZRSYSTEM3. Alright, we're going to talk about the harness that comes in the RZRSYSTEM3 and RZRSYSTEM2. This is a long harness. This is for both the 2 and 4-seater. You'll notice at this end of the harness, there's all the connections for all your components that are going to go in or around the dashboard of this vehicle. So the first thing we need to do is we need to get this half of the harness separated from the back by running it through the firewall. So we have 2 grommets down here. There's one that has the main harness going through it and one that's empty. You can use either one, whichever one works for you. Point being is you want to get all these plugs on the dashboard side of the vehicle and these 2 little connectors, orange and red, on this side of the vehicle. The rest of it's going to run down through the middle of the vehicle, making sure not to connect it to anything that's moving or can move. You got to pay real close attention to that. First, before you do all that, remove the fuse holder from the harness and set it aside. So when you get your connection to the battery, we'll return and put that on later. Now we're going to go ahead and install the RZR XP10 subwoofer into this unit. But first we have to take the factory glove box, remove the 5 T20 Torx, and split this thing in 2 by opening it up, taking a razor knife, and cutting a few times across this seam. Ooh, sharp knife. Don't need this one. We're going to go ahead and attach this to the RZR XP10 sub box. That way you maintain a glove box, your door, and all your factory snap-in dash components as well. Alright, now we're going to attach the front of the glove box that we cut away from the factory glove box. I went ahead and pre-drilled this so that we can use the existing 5 screws that came out of the factory glove box. That way there's no extra hardware you have to look forward to. Take a few minutes and pre-drill it, and go ahead and use the factory screws and screw it right in. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and install the subwoofer into this RZR. One cool thing about this is you do not need to have a RZRSYSTEM2 or 3 to attach the subwoofer. This attaches just like any amplifier would to a head unit or a source unit of any kind. It's a simple power grounded signal. That's all you need. Now, going back to our System 2 and 3 install. This long end of the enclosure is going to go to the left side of the dashboard with the subwoofer facing the firewall. Now when you notice, when you take this apart, there's going to be a bracket in the center that would attach to the back of the storage pocket, which we're going to get to later. But I find it easiest to just take that bracket out, slide the enclosure back up in there. First thing you want to do is hang it off of the hangers from the glove box. The rest of the screws go in really easy if you do that. Alright, now that we got the sub installed, off of one of the arms of the harness in the RZRSYSTEM2 and 3, you're going to plug this subwoofer in, all colors matching, RCAs are also going to match. You're going to have to do 1 crimp connection on the remote turn-on. Now if you were installing this with an aftermarket head unit or something like that, this is standard amplifier wiring, just like you would find in any manufacturer's amplifier. So it's a really easy, real simple hookup. There is one small red and black connector on here. This is for your EBC, your external bass control. We're going to mount this later when we install the radio. Once your connections are connected from the system harness to the subwoofer, this is what you should have. Simple, real easy, all the colors match, 1 crimp and you're done. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and install the amplifier. Now, this is the RZRSYSTEM3. So it comes with a 4-channel amplifier. In this case, the MUD 100.4. Now if this were the RZRSYSTEM2, it'd come with a 2-channel amplifier. Either way, both of them plug directly into the harness of the machine. Now you'll notice when you pull your amp out of the box, it's going to have a lot of these connections on it. Don't be intimidated by them. These are for if you were using an aftermarket head unit or any other vehicle that isn't using this harness, you would need these connections. But since we are using this harness, we're going to remove all the connections from the amplifier that ship with it. Now this is going to include the power and ground extensions, the turn-on extensions, and the speaker extensions, because these are going to plug directly into this harness. There is no way to mess this up because every plug is different and unique to its own counterpart. Also, for a convenient mounting location, we're going to use the top of the amplifier, the long end towards the driver's side. You're simply going to screw it in with the screws supplied in this kit. Alright, we've got our amplifier mounted, like I said, all the plugs directly into the harness. Now again, if you're not using this subwoofer or you're not using this harness, you can mount this amp anywhere you find it convenient. One of the most convenient spots people are using is the top of the glove box or out here under the storage compartment. Either way, it's waterproof, weatherproof. You can put it anywhere you can find room. Okay, next on our system install, both, again, 2 and 3 if you're using this radio. We're going to gather up this storage pocket. This comes with your RZR. If it doesn't, you can go to your local dealer or online and grab this particular pocket, about 20 bucks. It's just part of what you need in order to install this RZR kit. So, first thing we need to do is take the storage compartment door off of here because we're going to replace it with our radio kit. To do that, you can see there's 2 little black pegs in here, a pry tool, a flat blade screwdriver, whatever you need. We're going to pop those out, just like that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, get this apart, and come back and show you how to mount the radio in the kit and put the kit in the pocket. Alright, I've removed the faceplate, the Polaris faceplate that comes with this pocket. We're going to replace it with the RZR kit. Now, if you remember the black pins that held this in, they're going to be replaced with these big bolts that come with your kit. The instructions on how that all goes together are included in the kit. But before we do that, the first thing we want to do is mount our radio into this kit. Now, there are posts on the back of this kit. We're going to slide the radio over those posts, just like so. Very snug, what you want, nice seal. You'll hear it snap when it's attached, and it comes with 4 little nuts that you're going to go ahead and tighten down to hold this radio in there. Okay, I want to show you a couple tricks of the trade here. As you can see, I went ahead and drilled an oversized hole in the back of this pocket. Do that before you get too far along. It's going to make your life easier because you have to get this and these RCAs through that pocket to plug into the harness. Again, since we're using a harness, everything plugs directly in. It's all labeled and matches. You can use this radio as a standalone unit without using the harness. It works just like any other car audio 12-volt receiver that you may use, again, in a car or in a boat or in a UTV. Any way you want to go, this thing will get it done. Alright, now that we've got our radio mounted in the kit, in order to put the kit in and mount the pocket, we need to put the bottom dash of the RZR back in the machine. This is real simple. We just want to snap it in. We don't have to super secure it right now. We'll come back to it. As you noticed, I didn't tie up any of the wires or anything yet. We want to get everything snapped in. Check this thing before we mount anything permanently. That way, there's no taking things apart twice. Alright, remember when I drilled this big hole in the pocket? This is why. This is the piece of the harness from RZR System 2 and 3 that you need to feed into here. You can use the smaller holes that come with it, but I don't even bother doing that. I just like to drill a bigger hole. It makes everything much easier to fit in there. You know this is the correct part of the harness because it's the only one with the big square plug. You're going to go ahead, pull that through, have your harness outside the pocket just like this, put your bracket screw back in, and then we'll go ahead and make our connections at the radio and move to the next step. Alright, now that we've got our dashboard back in the machine, our rear bracket mounted to the pocket, which I think is the hardest thing to do in this entire install because I can't get my hands back in there very easily. Anyway, radio's mounted in the kit. At this time, I took the time to mount the EBC into the kit. Now, you have locations you can either do extra switches, mount your external bass control, do a 3.5 input to the aux in. You simply have to remove the EBC from the factory bracket, drill a hole, and mount it into the kit. From the sub box, the 2 small wire lead, you're just going to feed it in with the harness and plug everything in. So you have front and rear RCAs all labeled So you want to find the corresponding plugs on the radio. So technically, that would be it. That's all you would need to plug in. You can secure these with tape or heat shrink or however you want. This is also the time you would take to put in any extra accessories you're going to put into this kit. For right now, all I'm going to do is set it in there so that we can get the rest of the components installed. I'm a big advocate for not mounting anything permanently until you know everything works. Alright, next in our RZR System 2 and 3 install comes my favorite part. The industry's first dash speaker. We came out with these before we went anywhere else on the speakers. You got to get the sound in front of you. You don't want it playing at your knees. You don't want it taking up leg room. These are a dash mounted speaker for the RZRs. They specifically fit the contours of the dash. They're really simple to install. They come with a bracket, 2 screws, and some double stick tape. The tape is to dampen the vibrations from the speaker and or machine. The bracket is to mount it to the 2 cage bolts. It's really simple install. Remove your double side of your tape, remove your 2 bolts, and this speaker sits just like that and keeps the audio in your face. All right, now we're going to go ahead and install our RZR 65P pods under the dash of this RZR. I already took the bolts out of the cage. Don't be afraid. They do spring apart a little bit, but it's not going to go anywhere. First thing you want to do, after you've installed your adhesive tape, is peel it back. Careful, sharp knife, remember from earlier? All right, got all our tape backing removed. You want to make sure your surface is clean and dry. Take your wires, feed them down through the wire feed hole in the machine. We're going to come back to those in a bit. Get this lined up and stuck in place. And then go ahead and put your bolts back in. When you do that, there'll be some washers included in the kit. Put those between the bracket and the cage, slide your bolts back together, move on to the other side. It's as simple as that. All right, now that we got our dash speakers installed on both sides, we're going back to the wiring. I know you're saying, oh, no more wiring. Listen, this is really easy. Here's a tip. This is an industry standard harness. So the colors that are coming out of the breakout of the harness are going to be white and black for the left front, gray and black for the right front. So here we have our right front gray and black wires. Now, they'll only plug into these pods one way. So that's real easy, self-explanatory. Again, if you were going to use these with any other amplifier, whether it be ours or a competitor's, you would simply just have to use these connectors or cut them off and use a standard butt connector. So again, we're going to go ahead and plug these into the harness. Real simple. Like this. And these are done. That's it. Waterproof connection. We'll come back and tie it up later. Right now we're going to move on to the other side. All right, we've got everything up front connected for now. We're going to move on to the rear pod speakers. If you remember, when I ran the harness initially, I ran the rear speakers to the back of this vehicle. This being a 4-seater, we're going to mount them on the very furthest back poles. We're going to do that without drilling any holes. Real simple install. I'll get those mounted and come back to you and show you how to wire them up real quick. All right, now that we've got the front speakers mounted on this RZR System 2 or 3 again, we're going to the rear speakers. Well, this is a 4-seat RZR. We're going to put these on the down tubes of the cage. But realistically, this is a universal cage speaker. It's a 6.5-inch speaker, 360-degree rotation, fits 1.5, 1 3/4, and 2-inch tubes, and comes with a red LED ring that glows inside. All you need to mount this is a 10mm wrench or socket. I'm going to go ahead and get these mounted, get the wires up to it, and we'll talk about how we make all the connections on this. All right, we got our rear speaker pods mounted on this cage. Now we got to move on to the wiring. Again, you'll notice in this harness there are 2 sets of wires coming from the front and 2 sets of wires on the speaker. Now, on the speaker wire, we talked about the LED. The LED wires are going to be this yellow and black. They're going to illuminate the grill when power is turned on. The gray and black are the speaker wires. In this case scenario, the green and the green with the black trace are your speaker wires, black being the negative. So that leaves the red and the black, which are going to be your LED wires. Now we're going to have to connect all these. There's many ways to connect it. In this case, I'm going to use a bullet connector like we did in the rest of this system install. You could solder, you could use a Molex plug, butt connector. All you have to do when you do this is make sure it's secure, watertight, and tie it up out of the way, just like any other component. Keep it away from heat, keep it away from moving parts. You'll be good to go. I'm going to go ahead and connect this, move on to the other side, and we'll continue on with this install. All right, we're back at this RZR. We're back at the front of this RZR. We're finishing up the final few connections on our RZRSystem3 install. As you can see from earlier, we left these 4 wires disconnected from the install. Now what these are is the radio power wire and the light power wire for the lights in the integrated pods. Now in this situation, I want the lights to come on when the key comes on. So I am going to simply tie the red power wire and the orange power wire together and put them at the accessory on the bus bar on the vehicle. You'll notice in this vehicle, it has a larger gauge ground and power run from the battery already. So if you wanted to, you could just ground to that. If you wanted it on full time, you could hook to the red. In this situation, we want them to come on with the ignition, so we're going to use the orange wire supplied by Polaris. This is here regardless of whether these two are here. So in this situation, we're going to go to the orange wire and the ground. But if these weren't there, you can still go to the orange wire and use either of these 2 outside brass bolts as a ground. All right, we're at the battery. And in this case, it's behind the rear or underneath the rear seat of this 4-seater. If it were 2-seater, it'd be underneath the driver's seat. We have one final connection to make. I've already made the ground connection. And if you remember that fuse holder I asked you to remove initially when we were running the harness through the vehicle, I've gone ahead and reinstalled it. The reason you do that is because this is too bulky to fit through your grommet. You don't want to drag it up the length of the vehicle. It's easier to do it this way. So, next connection is going to be to the battery. Now, this is really simple. The ring terminal is provided. All you have to do is loosen the positive here. This is it. All right, the final connection's made. I'm going to unknot myself from this back seat. We'll spin around, give this thing a test before we button up any loose ends, and enjoy some tunes. All right, we've got our upper dash piece back in so we can plug the key in, and now we're going to try out the system. I've went ahead and Bluetooth to it already, just to save time to do that. You can Bluetooth to this, we can use an aux in, all kinds of different sources. All we want to do at this point is make sure everything plays.
The world is love and life are deep. Maybe as the skies are wide.
All right, good. Now that we know this plays and all 4 speakers in the subwoofer are playing, we're going to go ahead and tie up any loose ends and wrap this thing up and get it on the trails.